Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. Today on the program, the House of Representatives will renew the push for economic charter change next year. Senate leaders defend the hike in unprogrammed funds in the 2024 national budget. And later, a Senate committee is set to hold a hearing on Apollo Quiboloy's megachurch amid allegations of human trafficking and abuse. Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel joins us in the show. House lawmakers will attempt to renew the push for economic charter change next year, saying it is one of their priorities for 2024. Speaker Martin Romualdez says they will use both the People's Initiative and convening the House and Senate into a Constituent Assembly or CONAS. He says his cousin, President Bongbong Marcos, also wants the 1987 Constitution reviewed. Meanwhile, the Senate leadership says most senators are not in favor of discussing CHACHA anytime soon, despite the plans of their counterparts in the lower chamber. Now, let's go straight to the source of the story, Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. Senator, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Source.
Magandang umaga. Good morning, Ria, and to all of our viewers.
All right, Senator, let's get right to it. President Bongbong Marcos recently said that there have been preliminary discussions on revisiting the economic provisions of the 1987 Constitution. He said he's even ordered a study to see whether or not the current Constitution needs revision in order to draw more foreign investments. What is your take on all of this?
So if the focus is on the economic provisions, then I am not really for that. No, I have strong and serious reservations. If the only purpose is to relax the nationality requirement in some of the economic provisions in the Constitution, because as one of the founders of PDP Laban, we founded that party way back in the 1980s to advocate for the adoption of a federal system of government. So we cannot do that without amending the Constitution. But adopting a federal system of government requires the amendment of the political provisions of the Constitution, not the economic provisions.
So why are you against the economic provisions, sir?
Kung yun lang, I mean, kung yun lang ang purpose, so we even weaken a salient feature of our 1987 Constitution, which is the nationality requirement for the exploitation of our natural resources, as well as the protection over land ownership. Kasi as of the moment, the rule in the Constitution is that only Filipino citizens can own land in the Philippines, except in cases of hereditary succession. So that is a rule which is pro-Filipino, given of course the limited land area of our republic, of our country. So wag na natin buksan pa ito para sa mga foreigner. I'm sure ang nag-propose lang yan yung mga naka-land banking na, yung meron ng inventaryo ng lupain na pwede nilang ibenta sa mga dayuhan.
A moment ago, Senator, you talked about the political changes within the charter. Pero hindi po ba mas mahirap na charter change at federalism ang i-push rather than the economic provisions?
Well, kasi we are currently in a unitary form of government. So meaning to say, masyadong malakas ang central government. That's why the party PDP Laban since the 1980s has been espousing for the adoption of a federal form, because we believe that this will speed up decision-making processes, because we will now give the power to lower levels of government the power to decide on the problems that they are facing in their areas. So, mas mabilis ang decision-making process. Tapos, we are sure that yung decision mas angkop sa sitwasyon. Kasi yung mga nagde-decide, yung mismong nakaharap sa problema eh. Kasi sa under a unitary form of government, nagiging one size fits all yung ating solusyon, lalo na meron pa tayong prinsipyo sa ating constitution na equal protection of the laws. So kung kami national legislature ay nagpapasa ng batas, we have to be conscious of the requirement of the constitution that the law must be applicable to all similarly situated all over the country. But with federalism, we will have more flexibility in dealing with specific problems of localities.
So, Senator, do you think will federalism moves get support? Because if we recall, these didn't prosper during the time of former President Duterte.
Yes, just to be realistic and to be honest with the feedback, although informal feedback that we have been getting, I believe that the effort to amend the economic provisions of the Constitution has bigger support than the effort to amend the political provisions of the Constitution. But in both instances, minority. If we count the number of senators supporting the general idea of amending the Constitution, these senators are just a minority of the 24-member Senate.
Right. But now on the part of the House of Representatives, they're looking to push for charter change next year in 2024. And you had Senior Deputy Speaker Dong Gonzales going as far as to say that they're exploring options that do not involve the Senate. What do you think of the timing of these talks?
Well, they are already, in their minds, they are already amending the Constitution as far as the process for amending the Constitution is concerned. Wag nilang gawin yun. You amend the Constitution first. Even the procedure in amending the Constitution, you have to amend it properly rather than just doing it as if it has been amended. So, all the more, kung ganyan ang attitude kasi ng ating mga kaibigan sa House at ina-announce nila yan, all the more they will really lose support of the senators. Pero ang sabi nila, anyway, we will do this without the participation of the Senate. And therefore, you will even now see senators explaining the issue to the people and telling the people why what the House is doing is unconstitutional. So, wag na nilang gawin yan because na palayo na tayo ng palayo sa mga real problems confronting our people.
So you're saying, Senator, yung ginagawa ng lower house ngayon, that process in itself is already unconstitutional?
Not involving the Senate, and they believe that they can amend the Constitution? Impossible. Hindi lang po unconstitutional, impossible pa.
All right. Now, for Speaker Romualdez, he laments that charter change proposals just die a natural death in the Senate. And you've just said that the senators who are in favor of charter change are really in the minority. So why do you think it is senators are cold to the idea of charter change?
Number one, because the proposals are not that clear. Those who are calling for the amendments must speak in specific terms, hindi po pwedeng puro general lang. Well, let's amend the economic provisions. Pero anong final itsura nun? Kailangan makita po natin. Tsaka economic provisions, kasama ba dyan ang foreign ownership of land? Siyempre, against po tayo dyan. So, lack of details. Number two, itong mga they model the issue of the procedure because some of them say that they will do this without the participation of the Senate. So all the more lumalamig, konti na lang ngayong senador na bukas ang isip to amending the Constitution. All the more na kahit doon sa mga senador na yon lalamig po ang suporta kasi we hear talks of unconstitutional procedures to be followed.
And if it is just about making the country more attractive to foreign investors, is there not a way to make that so without changing the Constitution? I mean, can't we change, create, amend existing laws that make us more attractive to direct foreign inflows?
Right, that's right. Number one, reduce corruption in government. Number two, energy costs. And of course, number three, protect the value of our currency. Sino naman ang gusto mag-invest sa Pilipinas ng income peso tapos walang halaga ang kinikita nila? So, these are beyond the charter change effects. So, yung cost ng ating electric power, yan, tignan po natin yan. And then, ulitin ko, corruption in government, the value of the currency, responsible budgeting, yan, importante yan, because irresponsible budgeting contributes to inflation. Inflation erodes the value of the currency.
Right, we will talk about a little bit of the budget later on. But for now, the House is also keen on the idea of a people's initiative. Do you see any problem with this? Is it something that's feasible at this point? And how different would it be from a CONAS?
Well, people's initiative would only be for a ang tawag mo dyan, surgical amendment of the Constitution. So, very specific po yan. And then, that takes a lot of effort. So, kilusan nila yan. Basta for as long as we comply with what is required under the Constitution as flashed in your screen. Nakakalat. The support must be wide enough and also deep enough. Yan po yung requirement ng ating Constitution. But then you cannot, in my opinion, we cannot revise the Constitution through people's initiative. It's just one topic, very specific topic.
All right. Now, your colleague, Senator Robin Padilla, he also revived Cha-Cha talks in the Senate. He wants the term limits for president and vice president lifted, and he wants to more than double the number of senators. Is this something you support?
That is the increasing the number of senators is a feature of the adoption of the federal form of government. Effect yun eh. When we go federal, since now we want regions to be represented in the Senate, the effect is the increase in the number of senators. Pero that should be the effect, not the ultimate goal. So I think what we have encountered here is that it has become the goal. The goal is to increase the number of senators and elect them by region, or may combination pa yata siya eh. It's a complicated proposal, but it is not the effect of the adoption of a federal form of government. So nabaliktad po, in my opinion, nabaliktad.
So he's putting the cart before the horse, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's the saying.
All right, we need to take a short break now, Senator, but this is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo, and our source today is Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. Welcome back to the program once again, Senator. We're going to change topics now. I want to talk about the 2024 budget. Let's talk about the proposed 5.768 trillion peso budget. You have raised concerns over the increase in unprogrammed funds. I believe from the proposed 281 billion, it went up to 732 billion. How questionable is this?
Well, in my opinion, the Congress increased the appropriations requested by the President for the operations of the government, because the budget proposal comes from the executive branch through the office of the President. Yan eh. So, because we are under a presidential system of government, so the assumption is it is the president who has the macro point of view on how much the government needs to operate the government. So, the entire government bureaucracy. So, humingi siya ng, and then ang structure ng budget, we have programmed appropriations, then we have automatic appropriations, and then we have unprogrammed appropriations. Galing lahat yan sa presidente, may mga values yan. So, according to the Constitution, Congress may concur with the budget proposed by the President. Congress may reduce, but Congress cannot increase. Yun pantandaan natin, Congress cannot increase. Bakit? Kasi nga, mas alam ng Presidente magkano yung maximum halaga kailangan sa pagpapatakbo ng gobyerno. So, anong nangyari ngayon? Ano itong inapprove ngayon ng BICAM? Pagdating sa programmed appropriations, okay lang, hindi ginalaw ng Kongreso yung halaga. Pagdating sa automatic appropriations, hindi rin niya ginagalaw kasi sabi, ang assumption namin, batas na yung nagsabi na yan ang iset aside halaga. Pagdating ngayon sa unprogrammed, 281 billion pesos lamang po ang hiningi ng executive branch. Ano ang ending? After the legislative process, ang ending 730 plus billion pesos ang ending. Hence nagdagdag ang Kongreso ng 450 billion pesos in the unprogrammed appropriations of the budget. Although unprogrammed yan, ang ibig sabihin ng unprogrammed, it is conditional, merong one of three conditions, merong binigay na three conditions, pag present ang isa, pwede nang gastusin yung halaga na yan. Still, kahit na unprogrammed appropriations ang tawag dyan, still it is an appropriation. At ang ginamit na salita ng Constitution, appropriations lamang. Wala naman sinabi doon programmed, unprogrammed, automatic, wala. Sinabi, kung ano yung appropriations na hiningi ng Presidente for the operations of the government, hindi pwedeng taasan ng Kongreso. So that is the argument why I believe that the product of the bicameral conference committee, which increased the unprogrammed appropriations by 450 billion pesos, is unconstitutional.
Why would they have done something like this, Senator?
Well, feeling executive branch na ang mga legislators po natin. Maraming inisyatibong naiisip, ilalagay ngayon sa budget. But, disregarding the constitutional rule that we can concur with the budget proposed by the President, we can reduce it, but we cannot increase it. So, naghanap dapat, kung ganyan ang gusto para ng Kongreso, that we disagree with the priorities of the President, then we should have changed some of the items in the proposal of the President, but not increase the amount. Because when we increase the amount, para kami nagiging executive branch.
Right. No, for Senate Finance Committee Chair Sunny Angara, he's downplayed this and said that it's really nothing out of the ordinary. He said parang household na may fixed expenses at kung magkaka-bonus or extra income, then that's the time na magkakaroon ng funds yung additional expenses. What's your reaction?
Well, ang sabi kasi ng Constitution natin that the proposed budget comes from the executive. At uulitin ko, ganyan na nga ang pag-design ng executive. Meron na siyang proposed na unprogrammed appropriations. Ang kanyang suma total, 281 billion pesos. That is the amount which comes from the executive branch. Alam din the executive branch is also aware of the three circumstances when the unprogrammed appropriations can or may be funded. Alam ng all these rules na alam namin, alam din ng executive branch. And yet 281 billion pesos lang po ang proposal ng executive branch. Ano ginawa ng Kongreso? Ginawa niyang 730 billion pesos. So tinasan niya by 450 billion pesos. Ang sabi ng Constitution, Congress can only concur to the amount proposed by the President. We can even reduce it, lalo na kunyari meron na tayong malakas na political party system sa Pilipinas at meron tayong nahalal na maraming nag-iisip na kailangan austerity tayo, kailangan practical tayo, kailangan value for money ang ating budgeting process. Kung ganyan, kunyari, may political party na in control ng Kongreso dyan, ang possibility is pwede nilang i-cut ang President's budget. But we cannot increase the President. Yeah, that's very, very categorical, very clear in the Constitution. And then, basta yung rules na sinasabi po nila to justify, alam din ng executive branch yun. Sa kanila nga galing yung budget na yan eh. And yet, kahit alam nila yon, alam nila yung loans, alam nila yung revenues, alam nila yung potential excess in collection. Alam na executive branch yan. And yet, ang kanilang proposal sa unprogrammed appropriations was still only 281 billion pesos. Ang ending, after Congress intervened, 730 billion pesos. So nag-increase ng 450 billion pesos, more than double.
Now, for former Senator Ping Lacson, he said in a tweet that the president should line veto the additional unprogrammed funds, or at the least, as you said, that 450 billion peso increase. Is this something you support?
Yes, that is, well, coming from experience na yan ni Senator Lacson, siya nag-point out ng possible remedy. Because the possible remedy is, yes, for the President to veto the excess so that the budget will come back to the levels as proposed by the President. But if the President does not do this, therefore we have a case. Diba? This can be questioned before the Supreme Court on the basis of the constitutional provision which I have cited.
And with that, we'll be taking another short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. Our source today, Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. All right, Senator, we are on to the last portion of our program. Still have a couple of questions to ask you. Your colleague in the minority, Senator Risa Ontiveros, filed a resolution seeking to probe Pastor Quiboloy over human trafficking and sexual abuse allegations. Do you support this move?
Yes, because Senator Risa has done this for the Socorro group. With similar allegations. And then I think I just asked Senator Risa if she has already in her possession affidavits to support the allegations. And she said yes.
All right, so that looks like it will proceed.
Yes, this is the majority. The majority already assigned this to the Committee on Women and Children.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We always appreciate it. That was Senator Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. You're watching CNN Philippines.